The Honest Money podcast is powered by 10x Investments, a licensed financial services provider. Consult with your financial advisor and let's 10x your future together.
Welcome to Honest Money. I'm Warren Ingram.
This is Pieter Villiers.
Thank you so much for all of your comments and feedback over the episodes. You know, one of the things that we've evolved since Pieter joined was we started doing more and more series or seasons or whatever. We're figuring out the right terminology for it, and that's feedback that we've got from you. And so thank you very much. And so now we're going to carry on with that, where we are going to kind of do a few topics in a row that relate to each other and hopefully give you a bit more in-depth knowledge. And so Pieter will explain that in a bit more detail now. And maybe just before we kick off, just thank you, Sealand, for keeping us warm in this very cold winter. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sealand. It's a cold, windy and rainy day in Cape Town, but luckily we're nice and cozy. So yes, we thought about, we talk. There's a lot of topics we can discuss, and every topic has different considerations and implications for depending on where you are in your life. So we're going to take a little bit of a different angle and break our episodes into 4 big series, and then each series will have 4 episodes. So it's almost like thinking about the Honest Money season 1 to 4, the 4 episodes on your Netflix that you can hopefully binge watch. So how we're going to break it up is the first series, which we're going to start today with episode 1, is going to cover young adults. So typically your 20 to 30-year-olds, new to your career, what you need to think about when it comes to money. Second series will cover your mid-career adults, so 30 to 40, 45-year-olds. Third one would be your pre-retirees, so that 45 to, let's say, 65-year-olds. And then we're going to finish off the last series on post-retirement. So those post-retirees past the age of 65. And we're going to cover kind of the big topics, the topics that we get the most questions on each one of those. So depending on where you are in your life, there's going to be a whole series of 4 episodes just for you. So I hope that this will add value. And even maybe you watching today's episode and you're not in that 20 to 30-year-old, but you have friends in that age group or maybe kids in that age group, send them the video. Hopefully they'll get value out of it and help them set up themselves for success. So I'm quite excited about this. We've got a lot to talk about, and I think, let's kick it off. So the first thing that we thought about talking about is in your 20 to 30s, it's a very interesting time in life because you kind of now an adult, but also not. so you enter the school of life where you've been to school in the traditional sense of getting, finishing high school and getting a degree. And now you are actually in the real world where the real things happen and where you haven't most likely been prepared adequately for how you manage your money. Unfortunately, the school system in its current form does not do a proper job there. So let's go to that moment in life where you earn your first paycheck. What are the things we need to think about when we get that nice first check in that first notification on our banking app that money has been paid into, and they send us our payslip? What do we think about?
I've got to share a lovely story about that. So one of the people I spoke to that told me that when he got his first paycheck, he went to the ATM and drew all of the cash that he'd been paid out as physical cash, and then went home and was throwing it up and lying on his bed and kind of swimming in money. And so, I mean, I found it very funny, but he did tell me he didn't think it was a good idea. And I just want to say, whatever you do, please don't do that. That's not the right thing to do. It might be fun and might make a nice Instagram post, but it's not really, that's not the way to deal with money. And so maybe the starting point is just to realize that you have a blank piece of paper. So you've got a blank canvas and you're starting that journey, and you can go, immediately left or immediately right. And I mean, I think one thing we've realized about money is there isn't only one way. There's certainly real mistakes that you can make that we're going to tell you and that you should avoid. But from there are lots of choices you can make that suit your life, how you've grown up, where you want to go, all of those things. So, I mean, this is the Honest Money show. It's not the don't do anything and don't have fun show. Like we think you should have some fun. But I do want to say, when you've got a blank canvas like this, the big mistake to avoid is don't go and embrace debt. as your starting point. You get your first salary. The likelihood is the bank's already saying to you, gee, you've got, we're going to give you a credit limit. You can just tap and go wherever you want and go wild. That's not what you do. So I would be looking at that salary, and then I know it's boring stuff, but just get a spending plan. If your first salary after your new partner in life is SARS, after they've taken their cut of your salary, and you've got all the other deductions off your account, you say, well, I've got 10 grand as an example, 3 grand's going to rent, XYZ is going for transport and all the rest. Figure out what you've got left over. And then start to say, well, let's just, for argument's sake, say it's $3,000. Of the 3,000, set aside some money for an emergency fund. I think am I covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all in one shot? Sorry, but equally set aside some money for fun.
Yeah,
and I think you've got to be rewarding yourself early for the hard work that you're putting in. It is hard. Most people find that first week of work really exhausting. Is hard work, but at the same time, do something where you say, I'm setting aside money for my future and setting aside money for the weekend or my first holiday or my first long weekend. Because guess what? You might actually be able to afford holidays and long weekends now because you're working.
Yeah, it's about balance. So I found that, so I recently turned 30, so I'm not now in that age group anymore.
Do we have to call you Worm? Or
I feel like a worm. It's getting harder and harder to get up in the morning. So I'm graduating out of this group now. So what I found in that age group is it's a weird time because there's so many things that you can do with your life and so many expectations of where you thought you're going to be in like at 30, and then what others might expect from you. So what I learned was, depending on who you ask, everyone will have a different opinion on what you need to do. Some will tell you need to buy a home as quickly as possible and pay it off and own your own asset. Others will tell you, no, that's a mistake. You need to rather save and invest in the market to benefit from the compounding effect of time. Some will tell you, you need to get kids early because you want to be young when they still going to school and you can spend time with them. Others will tell you, no, and don't do that early. It's too expensive. Rather save up. Some will tell you need to get married early. Some will tell you, no, wait. So a lot of opinions out there on what you need to do, and there's no right or wrong. I agree with you. There's different ways to approach the life, the school of life. But when we talk about money, and yes, let's say you get your first paycheck and you're now looking at your payslip, which is in itself already quite confusing because they have all these terms, jargon that people use that, I can also tell a story. When I graduated as a vet, in our final year, we signed our contracts for the next year, that our employment contracts with the government, because we had to do a 1-year government. And then the number you see there that you signed, your salary, you're like, nice, okay, this is going to be good. But then what happens when you get your first salary in your bank account, you look like, no, but wait, this is not the same. This is not what I signed up
like half of it.
It's like, welcome to adulthood. That's called taxes. Pay as you earn. Pay, PAYE. So your first biggest expense, you might think, it's going to be rent or it's going to be your car or maybe your investments. No, it's going to be taxes, most likely. You're going to have to pay taxes before anything else. So if you look at your pay slip and you see that pay as you earn taxes, that is called income tax. So what does that mean? Is everything you earn, any money that you earn, whether that's through a salary or you do side hustles or you earn commission, you're going to be taxed by such. It's called if you Google like marginal tax brackets, there's like tax brackets depending on how much you earn. It's a progressive tax system. So if you earn more, you pay more taxes. So let's say maybe you are in the, 31% marginal tax bracket. Also note that doesn't mean you pay 31% on all of your money, because I think that's quite a big misconception. It's like, but I'm in the 31%, I'm paying like a third of my money away. No, it's not really. It's like you get your marginal tax rate, which you see on those tax brackets, and you get an effective tax rate. That is, now if you go and you calculate the taxes you pay and you divide it by your gross income, gets your effective tax rate. And that's usually a lot lower. So just pointing it out there that what we can't do in life, we can't change our marginal tax bracket. Unless, if you earn more, you're going to be in a higher bracket. But you can change your effective tax rate by structuring your finances cleverly. And we're going to touch on all the different ways to save taxes later on in life. It's probably not at this specific point in time of life, something you have to think about. But just know that you can reduce that big line expense that you're going to see first on your payslip. There are ways to reduce that legally. There's also other ways, but we're going to just talk about the legal stuff. So that's a big one. Now, it may be that you, depending on the employment contract that you have, there might be other types of benefits that you get through your employer. And it's very important that you understand what those benefits are. Because another thing is, like, people don't always know. Maybe your employer is contributing to a pension or a provident fund on your behalf. Maybe they offer group life benefits like long-term insurance and sometimes medical aid. These are all called fringe benefits. So if they contribute on your behalf, also taxed on that amount, because it's as if they pay you the cash and you go do it on your own.
Yeah.
Now, why am I mentioning it? Is because you have to have clarity as to what your actual employment contract entails. Because if your employer offers all of that, then you may not need to take out those types of products in your personal capacity, which means that you can potentially save money. Because a lot of times people are like double insured. They're like, okay, I need income protection, so let me get it. Now, maybe your employer already offers that. So very important to understand, have clarity on your payslip. And if you don't understand the jargon, ask HR to sit down with you and just to explain to you all these terms. But those are the main ones. So understand the money coming in, understand the money that's going out, and then the taxes you pay, and then the net pay, that little amount at the end that's left over. That's what's going to hit your bank account. And from there onwards, now you need to look at your personal expenses. So I agree. I think the most valuable skill you can ever learn, and for me, the biggest predictor of someone's financial success long-term, is having a conscious spending plan. Having a system that you follow, that you know where your money is going. So tracking your expenses, having a budget, and not in the boring old sense that it's restrictive. No, it's something that reflects your values. So spend the money on what's important to you, and then cut back on what's not. Because if you don't have a system of understanding where your money is going, you're always going to wonder where it's going.
Where it went. Yeah.
Where it went, yeah. So you need to, let's say you've got your first month paycheck, or let's say first 3 months of money that's coming in. In the beginning, it will be difficult to track your exact expenses, because it's also that phase in your life where right now I've got a first job now, I'm moving into an apartment, I've got nothing. Now I need to go buy a couch and appliances and a bed, and it's all expensive, and it's just once-off expenses. So those things won't always happen every month. So give yourself a bit of time to figure that out. You're not going to have the perfect budget after the first month. But if you track it over 3 or 6 months, it will start evening out. And then you can, from there onwards, kind of plan ahead of what you want to do. At the end of the day, what we want you to develop is the skill of spending less than you earn, because that's the only way to create wealth. You need to spend less than you earn. And then that difference, we can then go and utilize to build wealth so that we can one day retire. At this stage in your life, you're going to work for money. Later on in life, you want money to work for you. But the money can only work if it exists. And the only way it exists is if you spend less and you have a margin that you can then use to fund those investments.
Yeah, I think it's, you've hit a whole lot of points, like really good ones there. So maybe just quick summary of that. So, the insurances are key, right? So if you're in your early 20s, I know you're not going to die. That's what everyone thinks when they're in their early 20s. You're invincible. Congratulations. But what you do need to do is make sure that medically you're covered. And so, especially if you were on your parents' medical aid, as an example, now you're starting life on your own. It might be that your parents are telling you it's time to go, that they're not going to look after you anymore. It's time for you to look after yourself, but make sure that the medical's covered. And as you say, it could already be part of your employment. If it's not, that's the very first thing you do. Don't rely on state medical to look after you at the worst possible time when you have no money. Remember, you have no money. So I think that's a critical point. The life assurance, if you're in your early 20s, you've got no dependents, etc., you might have it as part of your company employment, and that's great. That means your parents or someone else that you care about might benefit. But actually, the thing that you really want to do is make sure that you protect your income. Yeah. Your biggest asset you've got, other than your brains and your work ethic, is your ability to earn money for the rest of your career. And so you should insure yourself against that. And they'll call that income protection or disability. And we can get into that maybe in later episodes about how you do that properly. So understand those. If they're not part of your employment, medical aid, then disability or or income protection for me is key.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you already, I'm sorry, it's very expensive. That's not a reason to not do it. It's expensive for a reason. It's necessary for a reason. You're in adulting now. As much as you might not want to be, you're there now. And these are things you must do because we're not insurance salesmen, so we're not going to sketch all the worst case scenarios that could happen to you in life. But what you don't want to do is at age 23, 1 year into a career, now be disabled and then reliant on your parents' finances for the rest of your and their lives. It's just a really bad outcome.
Yes.
So I like that. I think the spending plan, we agree. So spending is not just wasteful, but it's also how the money is going to allocate to your savings. And so I mean, maybe like we can get into that, and we're going to run out of time again. On later episodes about how you allocate to the long term and all of that. But I would say for now, being intentional, making sure that the money doesn't just flow out of your account. And then I think the things that you don't have, buy them with cash. It's easy for us to get debt once we've got a salary, once we've got a pay slip. So, if you don't have, great furniture, well, make a plan, live without furniture for a while. I remember having boxes with tablecloths over them as my tables. And I didn't mind that. My first girlfriend didn't like it as much, but that was her problem. I had to pay for the stuff. And so living like a student for a period of time while you're working is very financially sensible. And if you can, and it's convenient, don't be afraid of staying with the parents for a bit longer, even if you pay them a bit of rent. But then buy the stuff that you need with cash. And that means if you don't have the cash, you can't afford it. I can't stand the idea of going and buying like your whole work wardrobe, and then you're kitting out your whole house. Even if it's like a quarter bedroom bathroom thing with debt. Buying furniture and all of that on debt. Remember, you can't sell that stuff for anything once you move. Which maybe gets to the last point I'll make on this is also you really should shop around. I mean, furniture costs nothing secondhand, and don't be afraid to buy it secondhand. Facebook Marketplace, look at the old guy talking about this stuff. But I think there are places where you can buy furniture really cheap, and so don't be afraid to do that. And kitting out your house, and I mean, I've even seen when I lived in Joburg in the CBD, you could buy clothing by the kilogram, and it would be like really expensive stuff last season from overseas. They'd import it by the container load, dump it in the street, and you'd buy by the kilogram.
Sure.
Like there are ways that you can be very smart about how you spend your money, but without looking like a student while you're at it. I mean, I don't think, we're not saying to you, you've got to arrive with holy clothes and the like. You obviously want to be presentable as well. But I think just be reasonable and don't project that you look like a CEO when you're first year of work. Everyone knows where you are at that work, that you are first year, that no one's expecting you to be in like the latest, biggest suits and whatever, if people still wear suits. And so be reasonable in how you project as well to the world. The world doesn't expect you to be looking like $1 million yet.
Yes. Yeah, that's very important, because if you go onto social media, it's classic. Like if you go onto Instagram, everyone only posts what they want the world to see. So everyone looks very ahead of life. And we easily fall into the trap of comparison. We think, but this guy was he was with me at school and he's so far ahead in life. I want to be like him, so I'm going to buy what he has. No, you've got to, like, maybe let me take a step back. We were all dealt different cards in life. So it's you versus you. It's not you versus your old school friend or you versus the CEO in his 50s. You can't compare the two because they've got different journeys that they walked. Some may have had many opportunities in life where they went to good schools and, their parents may be able to fund everything at university. If they've got good degrees, they're earning a good salary, they've got a paid off car, maybe even a flat. Good for them. Their parents did a phenomenal job. Whereas others might have had a very difficult upbringing. They did not have the opportunities. They really had to, against all odds, make it, and they still made it. So just be careful not to compare yourself to someone else. Just look at you a year ago. You look at that guy or that girl and you're like, geez, I've made progress. That's all you need. So be careful not to fall into the trap of comparison, because that's going to lead to lifestyle inflation, consumption, where you go and buy stuff, money you don't have, buy things you don't need, impress people that don't care. We always think people care. People don't care. They care about themselves, and that's it. So whatever you wear, I agree with you. At that age in your life, it's socially appropriate to still live and look like a student. When you're in your 40s, probably not. But if you're still in your 20s, it's okay. You're probably used to living like a student. So continue doing that for a couple of months or years. It's okay. I recall when I started working, so my wife and I were getting married 3 months after I started working. So we got her a nice flat, and then I stayed at an old Tannies, like she had like this, a big house that she converted into apartments, and I stayed in the little cottage at the back. It was so small I could basically, make my coffee, make my breakfast, use the shower, and the toilet at the same time. It's just so small. There's like the bed here and the bathroom here.
Quick to clean.
And the bed had this weird, it was one of those old mattresses with the springs. So I had to like lie in a very specific position for the spring to hit me in the ribs. But it was fine because I was like, well, that's what I'm used to. So it wasn't like a massive loss for me. And it was cheaper. I think I paid 3,000 Rand a month, and that included electricity, water, and breakfast. So I was like, that's a bargain. So it's okay. Don't expect to live the life of someone in their 30s or in the 40s because they have time behind them. They've got more time that they manage to build a life. So be reasonable with what you have and what you can do with that money. And I kind of close off to say, just relax. There's a lot of stuff that you can still do with your life and a lot of things that you can figure out. No one is expecting you in your 20s to have life figured out to the T. You're probably going to still make some mistakes in life. That's okay. Maybe you're going to have big life transitions. It's okay. You in the 20s, I think you still have time to experiment and to change direction, and you'll still be okay because you still have so much time ahead of you. So embrace life to its fullest potential. If you've got a job, good, well done, work hard, be the example that you can later future-proof yourself in your career. But also explore interests and do the things that you enjoy. In your 20s, you're probably going to be the fittest and the healthiest that you'll be in your life. Not for everyone, but most. You've got your youth. Also enjoy that. Don't feel pressured to now save and invest every single cent and retire early because that's a fad. It's probably not going to happen. So be reasonable with what you have and what you can do, and do the best that you can, and that's okay. You don't have to compare with anyone else. You still have a lot of time on your hands to figure life out. But the elements that we're going to touch on in the next 3 episodes is just kind of like the basics. And I think it's not really making big financial moves. It's more so avoiding big financial mistakes because you've got time on your hands. Now that could either go in your favor, compound over time, or it can go against you. So if we can avoid the big mistakes early on in life, you'll be much more ahead than those later on because every decision you make now is going to have a compounding effect of 40 years, which is massive.
And I think maybe last point, and it's not really about money, but it's key is a lot of us when we start work, we focus so much on work and maybe social life, and then we neglect our other big asset, which is our health. And so for me, like a lot of people come out of the school and or university system where exercise was kind of almost mandatory in a way, where everyone was doing it, and then you get to work and maybe no one's doing it. And so that's one thing I'd say is, I found myself ballooning in weight, in my 20s, going into my 30s, and it took me a long time to get myself back into shape again. So don't, that's a mistake to avoid. Is just, stay eating as healthy as possible, and then try and get some exercise because that saves you a fortune later. And so, investing in your health, which is simple to do when you're young, it just means just keep exercising and don't eat junk food all the time, is another great thing you can do that won't necessarily cost you. And then, I mean, to your point, if you can just keep, even if you don't have financial literacy, like these episodes are helpful. I mean, there is great content. So spending a bit of time educating yourself around money, again, it's not always about what you mustn't do. It's about positive choices to grow yourself. And it's going to feel, and it's my last point, but it's going to feel like you make no progress at the start. That's okay. Because what happens is, a rand plus a rand, it only gets you to 2 rand. But somewhere along the line, 2 rand plus 2 rand gets you to 4 rand. And eventually you start looking back and you go, I'm counting my assets in thousands. And then a few years later, I'm counting them in millions. And nothing really different happened. It was time and that compounding that you spoke about. So it might not feel like you're going very quickly. Pieter's right. You're not in a race. So don't worry about it. You're looking after yourself. So don't look left and don't look right. Just keep focused, but be intentional. Avoid the very big mistakes we'll talk about in the next few episodes. And then, enjoy it. If you can, without responsibilities of spouses and kids and all the like. You might already have them, and then we'll help you navigate that. But if you don't have them, enjoy it and make positive choices.
So yeah, the compounding effect of everything. So usually when we talk about compound, we think about money, and we're going to touch on that later on. But every single decision you make every day compounds. So if you wake up in the morning and you need to go to the gym, and you decide I'm going, or I decide I'm not going. Easy to do, it's easy not to do. Whichever choice you make, and you make the next day and the next day, is going to compound. If you go to the gym, then I agree with you. Health is such an important topic and something we neglect, because if you don't go to the gym for a year and you eat junk food, let's say for a day, not going to notice anything. In a week, probably going to feel a little bit groggy. In a month, you're going to start seeing, okay, I'm gaining a bit of weight. After a year, you're probably going to look a lot different. So it's in the short term, we don't see the effects, but in the long term, and if we go back to money, if you want to save money or you want to win at the game of life, then make sure you make the right decisions every single day, every small decision. So waking up, getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising, it's basic stuff. You've heard this millions of times, but it's the basic stuff that really makes an impact. If you take care of your health and you eat healthy and you exercise, you're going to avoid a lot of lifestyle diseases later on in life. That's very expensive. Dental care is another thing. We don't often talk about this, but taking care of your dental health, brushing your teeth, flossing, this is basic stuff. The stuff your mom teach you when you were 4 years old. But if you don't do that, then probably in your 30s or 40s, you're going to start losing teeth, and then it's flipping expensive to replace those. Believe me. So in this phase of life, to close off, realize that's a lot of stuff that you can do, but focus on the basics and do them consistently. Because if you can get into the habit of doing simple stuff consistently, and when we get to money, like living below your means and saving the difference, you don't have to really worry about what you do with that money at this point in time yet. Just make sure you spend less than you earn. If you can tick that box for the first year, then you're already well on your way. And then later on, as your salary increases, maintain that habit of saving the difference. So I think that concludes our episode for today. The next episode, so the second episode in this series, I was thinking of maybe let's talk about in the situation we have debt. So maybe you are in the position where you do have. You
didn't listen to episode 1. So
yeah, you kind of got here a little bit later. So maybe you've got student loans. Maybe you took out a car loan with a balloon payment. They caught you with that one. Or maybe you got pressured into buying a house, or you are in the process of thinking, I need to buy a house because society told me I need to. So we're going to focus a bit on that. So if this is the first time you join in, welcome. And then the next episode you'll see in the link in the description.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, please send us your questions and suggestions in the comments. We'll do our best to either put series together or answer them.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Stradivarius violin is considered to be the most emotive instrument in the world. That's why you'll often hear it in investment ads, adding drama and the utmost importance to their philosophies, or for the announcement of a fancy new fund manager. 10x Investments don't need dramatic instruments to seem impressive. They let the results sing for themselves. So 10x your future without the drama. 10x is a licensed FSP.